Okay, I'm here. I have been reading your comments and I have been talking to myself for 20 minutes. So if you've stuck with me this far, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, I know what I did wrong, but I've just been sitting here waffling on to myself. So let me start again, guys. I am so grateful you are faithful, faithful people. If this is your first time watching, we're not normally this disorganized. Truly, I'm not. Anyway, I'm Kath Armstrong, creator of the Cheapskates Club, where our goal is to live life debt-free, cashed up and laughing. And I don't blame some of you regulars for thinking that something terrible had happened after last week's debacle. I'm really sorry about last week, but life happens, and it happened to me last week. It just got right in the way of me, knocked me flat, literally, and it was about 40 minutes before I was due to do the show, and I was laid out flat on the floor. So if this is your first time visiting us, we're really glad to have you, but I am going to warn you that tonight's show may go a little longer, just because I think this topic is so important that I carried it over from last week. I think this show could well end up being the most important show of the year for me. And yes, I know it's only the third week of the year. We're not even halfway through the third week. But this is a topic that is already affecting so many Australians and so many Brits and so many Americans and so many Canadians and Europeans. It's affecting the whole world. Food poverty is real, and it is happening now in Australia, and it is getting worse. It's not something we Aussies generally think of. Yes, we see news stories about crop failures in Africa or flood devastation in Pakistan that's wiped out crops, but until now, nothing like that's happened to us. So while we've been sympathetic and donated what we could, it wasn't real and it didn't actually hurt us. But it is now. So what is food poverty? Well, to me, food poverty is the inability to afford food. Plain and simple. There may well be plenty of food on the shelf when you go to the supermarket or in the freezer cabinet or the fridge cabinet, but it is so expensive that very, very few people can afford even the basics like milk and bread. Now, when you consider it's $4.50 for 3 litres of milk, of generic milk now, that's expensive. If you've got kids, you're going to need more than 3 litres of milk in a week. If you've been grocery shopping in the last 3 weeks, you'll have noticed the price rises and you'll have noticed the empty shelves. The supermarkets are spreading things out even more, rearranging stuff. In some spots, they're just empty. And it's not just affecting low-income families. It is hitting everyone, even those middle to higher income earners, because food poverty doesn't distinguish between the rich and the poor. Yeah, it doesn't know what your income is. Now, you may well be going, oh, Kath, how could the wealthy possibly be suffering food poverty? But I want you to think about this. Most of the wealthy people are only wealthy in assets. They're not necessarily cash wealthy, cash rich. Now, appearances can be deceiving. We've talked about this before. So food shortages are real. And someone's bound to say I'm wrong. There's plenty of food. But if a brand disappears, if the producer stops producing it, then there is a shortage of that item. Now, there may well be another brand of the same can of widgets, but that manufacturer only makes a certain amount, And now you've got twice the number of shoppers wanting that product, and there's only half the quantity available. The problem with that is that scarcity is going to push the price up, adding to inflation, and it is creating a food shortage. Someone will go without at the very least, or at the best, and go hungry at worst. Now, I know there are people who say I'm lying, or I'm stupid, or I'm trying to scare you. I'm not lying. I am not stupid, and I am not trying to scare you. That is the last thing I want to do. And if anything I say does scare you, I want you to stop and think about it and ask yourself why that worries you, why it scares you, and do something about it. Do your own research. Find out for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Now, I will tell you that this scared me though. I was doing some research, and the official inflation rate for November 2022, the latest figures I could find, the official inflation rate is 7.6%. And that's a 30-year high. Some of you haven't even been alive that long. It's also an average because most of what I buy, the price has gone up more than 7.6%. Just saying. Don't believe me? Do your own research. So, what causes food poverty other than high inflation? Well, mortgage interest rates are at the front of everyone's mind, so we'll use those to start with. We've had 8 interest rate rises in under 12 months. There's at least a couple more to come, and that has hit most households with mortgages really, really hard. And when those with fixed rates move on to the variable rate over the next few months, it is going to be even worse. Those interest rate rises and moving to the variable rates are going to play havoc with your budgets. From what I could figure out and what I could find, it's going to increase mortgage payments up to an extra $850 a month on a $500,000 mortgage. Now, where are you going to find an extra $850 a month? That's according to what I could find from the RBA. Now, that's a week's wages, or almost a week's wages for people. Who's going to want to work an extra week? Who can work an extra week? Even if you could work through your annual leave, that's only 4 weeks. That covers 4 months for you. What are you going to do about the extra 8? Or who's going to want to do an extra 10 hours a week overtime to cover that interest rate rise? How are people going to manage? Well, the first thing to suffer is going to be the groceries. And I'm hoping that it's not going to be the groceries. I'm telling you, no, don't stop buying your groceries. The next thing will be fuel, because people will simply not be able to afford to drive. Now, we've had unprecedented, there you go, I've used that word, unprecedented fuel costs, fuel rises, fuel prices in Australia the last few months. Prices we've never seen before. And now ULP's come down in price, although diesel is still hovering around the $2, $2.03, $2.04 mark today, I noticed, in most places around here. If you're in the country, it's more. If you're up north, it's even more. If you are rural, remote, you need to win lotto to fill your car. It's expensive. Then we've got the loss of food from the devastating floods last year and the year before. We have had nearly 3 years of shocking weather that has affected our food supply and our food security. And it is still raining in Northern Australia, and more food is being lost, more crops are being lost, more grains being lost, more beef cattle are being lost. Then you throw in the rising cost of electricity and gas, and even without being extravagant with energy, those bills are rising. They are just going up and up and up. We can cut back as much as we can, and we should be shopping around for better deals. Most of us need fuel at the very least to get to and from work, and electricity and possibly gas to run our homes. So those bills need to be paid, and they're not flexible. They have to be paid. If you add in stagnant wages, and that's been big news for 12 months, we have the source or the sources of food poverty. That's what it is. Now, groceries, the food we buy, is a flexible cost. And it's really the one budget item we have absolute control over. We decide how much we buy, how much we pay, where we buy it from. We control our groceries. And that's a good thing. And I know it's tempting to want to go, okay, we'll just cut the grocery bill so we can put a bit more on the mortgage. I'm asking you not to do that. I'm suggesting that you don't do that. And if you don't do that, how do you avoid going into food poverty? Well, you don't do it by not shopping. And you don't do it by not replacing what you use from your pantry. You don't do it by not keeping a fully stocked pantry and a fully stocked stockpile. You need those things. Now, there's been a lot, and I mean a lot, of chatter over the various blogs and YouTube channels and socials since the start of the year about not shopping, not buying groceries, eating down what you have, emptying the freezer and pantry shelves and stockpile because you'll save your money to have extra to restock in February. And yes, guys, we will still be doing our annual no spending February, so just stay tuned. I've switched it up a lot for 2023. It is going to be fun. But if you do that and you empty all your food out, use up all your food and all your stockpile, what happens when you get to the supermarket in February and the prices have gone up again and there's even less food in the stores? You are worse off. You'll be paying more for less and you'll have less choice. So I'm going to say it again. I should tattoo it on my head. Now is not the time to stop stocking your pantry. In fact, right now is the ideal time to get produce and start preserving. Even me, the confirmed once a year shopper, even I am restocking and replacing what is used every week. If I use a tin of tomato soup, I replace it. If I open a tin of pineapple, I replace it. If I open a packet of flour, I replace it. And I'm adding to the stockpile when I can. Produce is quite cheap at the moment. Summer fruits are quite cheap at the moment. They've probably got about another week maybe before they'll start to go up in price. So your strawberries, your raspberries, your blueberries, those sorts of things, blackberries, are all quite inexpensive at the moment. Great for jams. Buy them now. You can buy fresh cheaper than you can buy frozen. Get the fresh. Why not? Make your jams now, or put them in the freezer for winter and make your jam in winter. Dehydrate them if that's what you want to do. Bananas are quite inexpensive at the moment, around $2 a kilo, thereabouts. So put them in the freezer, mash them for banana cake, slice them and dehydrate them. Think about that. Tomatoes, again, about $2 a kilo. You can buy bulk, cheaper, around $1.50 a kilo, sometimes $1, depending on if they're sauce tomatoes. And if you're going to make sauce, it doesn't matter. If you can do that, find those places and do it. You can stick to your grocery budget. and avoid food poverty, even with the rising prices and the shortages. You just need to be a little bit clever about it. So I'm going to challenge you this week to do your inventories, and I'll have a bit about that later in the week. Then I'm going to challenge you to make a meal plan. Make a meal plan using what you have on hand. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Don't go all fancy. Don't go all gourmet. Don't go all MasterChef, because now is not the time to be trying recipes that use all expensive and exotic ingredients unless you've already got them, and then use them up. Now, when I say simple, I mean simple, but simple meals don't need to be boring, and they don't need to be tasteless. There are so many great dishes that use basic ingredients. And remember, that's the secret: ingredients. Ingredients give you options. So get out your recipe books and start searching all those food blogs online. And actually, you know what? If you're feeling a bit blah about food, if you're worried about the grocery bill and how you're going to keep the pantry stocked, trying a new recipe or two using what you have is a good way to get out of those food blahs, and it can sort of make you feel a bit rich without impacting your grocery budget, because you've actually done something special, done something different. You've tried a new recipe, but you haven't impacted your grocery budget at all. It's all in the way you use the ingredients that you have on hand, and it's all in the way you think about them too. I think the storm is about to hit, Maureen. Now, you may find you need to cut back on the more expensive cuts of meat. We did that about 5 years ago, and that's okay. You can still have them if you really want them. Just keep an eye out for sales, and remember portion control. If you're buying steak, 180 grams per serve, or a piece about the size of the palm of your hand, is plenty. I know that sounds mean and mingy when you look at the packets at the butcher and the steaks are the size of a plate, but I make one of those steaks do 6 of us. It does not do one person or 2 people. Same with the chicken fillets. If they're small, I will get 2 to 3 people out of it. If they're really big, and sometimes our butcher has mega chicken fillets, I'll get 4, sometimes 5, depending on how you slice them. People out of 1. Remember your portion control. You can still have that stuff. Just remember your portion control. It's better for your health too. Just thought I'd throw that one in. People do it to me all the time. Oh, it's so much better for your health. Yeah, right. So if you've done your inventory and you've made your meal plan, then you do your shopping list. Now this is going to take a little bit of effort, because I want you to get online and check the prices at the various supermarkets around you. The Aldi, the Coles, the Woolworths, the IGA, the Foodworks, the independents. If you've got NQR, find those prices. Even your local Asian and Indian grocers, if they've got grocery lines, find the prices of things you buy and write them, and which supermarket is the cheapest next to each thing on your list. Now, it is going to take some time. So, you'll just have to give up Real Housewives of Dubai. And yes, it is a real show. I was gobsmacked. Real Housewives of Dubai. Seriously? Use that time, use that hour to make up your shopping list. It's much more beneficial for your brain, your family, your budget. I couldn't believe it when I saw the ad for it. Sorry. Most of us in Australia, we have at least 2 supermarkets close enough to be able to shop from both. If you have all 3 majors and a couple of the independents close by, you are even better off. Yes, you will need to put a little extra time into shopping. So again, switch off Real Housewives of wherever, or get off the socials, or get up earlier and hit the stores first thing in the morning if you think you don't have time. Stop making excuses for why you can't stick to your meal plan and your grocery budget. 2023 is your year to sparkle. So you're going to have to put some effort in and do just that. 2 years ago, about 2 years ago, I asked the question, are you ready for the coming food shortages? And the response was interesting. It was almost overwhelming. So many of you were preparing. You were smart enough to do your research and see what was coming and start or keep on building your stockpiles. But so many people weren't. And so the comments and emails I got from that show were interesting, to say the least. Now, I bet those people are still ignoring what's happening and blithely going about expecting someone else to save them. They're going to be disappointed and they're going to be hungry. And here's some statistics I found. And if I could find this information, you can find it too. Again, do your own research. Do not take my word for it. Now, according to the GFSI, Global Food Security Index, our ranking, Australia's ranking for food security, has dropped from 12th to 22nd out of 113 countries in 2 years. 2 years. Now, according to this index, this blew my mind, the most food secure nation is Finland, followed by Ireland, and then the Netherlands. Now do you understand why I'm talking about food poverty? Seriously, Ireland has better food security than Australia. You still don't believe that it's real and happening now? It is. It's real and it's happening now in Australia. We are ranked 32nd in the world for food affordability. Not too bad, but not that great either, when wages aren't keeping up with inflation, and considering that we could be an almost food self-sufficient country. Can you hear the rain? Rain on the windows. Now, in Australia, for whatever reason, our governments are just odd. Food security is not measured at a population level regularly. It's not even measured consistently. It's a bit hit and miss. But estimates suggest that between 4% and 13% of the general population are food insecure. In other words, they're suffering from food poverty. So around 3.6 million Australians have experienced food poverty in the last 12 months. That's a lot of people. And 3 in 5 of these people are going hungry and missing a meal at least once a month. Now, Foodbank's hunger report's been released, and for 2022, it shows that over 2 million Australians are having trouble putting food on the table. And this just blew my mind and upset me so much, I almost cried. 1.3 million children are going without essential food items. They're going without enough food. If you still think I'm fear-mongering and lying, so be it. I can't force anyone to do anything. I can just share what I believe and why I believe it. And I can suggest some things that we can all and should all be doing to avoid food poverty and still pay the bills. But if you have children and your grocery bill is creeping up, you need to act now. Start building your pantry. As I said earlier, do your inventories, make up your meal plan. I know people don't like doing meal plans, just do it. Zip over to the Cheapskates Club and have a look at mine. I do a meal plan every month. I do mine a year ahead. There you go. And it's in our weekly newsletter. If you're not subscribed to the newsletter, subscribe to the meal plan. If that's what the only thing you get out of it, use the meal plan. It'll give you ideas, if nothing else. Make up your shopping list and then be prepared to shop around. And yes, it does take time. But folks, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. It's how we use them that makes the difference. It's how we use them that, could say we don't suffer from food poverty when our next door neighbour does. Here comes the thunder. Some of the other things you can do, start growing some of the food you eat. Guys, this is the simplest way to beat food poverty, and frankly, there is no excuse, absolutely no excuse, for anyone to not grow at least some of what they eat. Doesn't matter where you live. You can live in a house with a backyard. You can live in a farm. You can live in an apartment with a balcony, in a caravan, and move from place to place. You can be in the city or the country. You can still grow some of what you eat if you really want to. And perhaps that's the key phrase, if you really want to. Again, stop making excuses. Get a box or a pot or an ice cream container or an old shoe, some soil, and plant something. Just get up off your patootie and do it. Let me see if I can show you. I grabbed this. See this bowl? This is my 3-litre Pyrex bowl. See those? I pulled those potatoes out of the ground this afternoon. See them? I didn't plant them. They were in a pot that I had planned to put berries in, and they must have been in the compost, and they came up. Now they're a bit odd shaped, and they're not all consistent sizes. And some of the little ones, there's some tiny ones, some of these little tiny ones, I will save and use as seed potato and put them back in another pot. That's free food. And as there is now the great potato shortage, or what do they call it? The great potato famine of 2023. It was on the news this afternoon. It made me think of the Irish potato famine. Free potatoes for nothing. I didn't even water that pot. It just got watered from the rain. Free. If I can grow those from nothing, there's probably, I don't know, maybe 3 kilos there, I suppose. Barely able to lift it. If I can do that, anyone can do that. Can you hear the thunder? Oh, can you hear the thunder? All right, the rain's getting louder. Okay. Berries are easy to grow, guys. And there was a thing over on Cheapskates Chatter, that's our Facebook group, this morning with strawberries, how to grow strawberries. Strawberries produce fruit and they produce new plants. Double whammy, double benefit. If you don't like strawberries, what do you like? Find something and grow it. Salad veggies, spring onions, herbs. You know all this. We've talked about it so often. Just do something. Just make a start. And when you're shopping, look carefully at what you're buying. Is it something you like and use all the time? If it's not, perhaps rethink buying it and using that money to get something that you do like and use all the time. Treats are great, but not if they're going to put you over budget and not actually feed you or give you a meal. I say stock what you eat and eat what you stock. I know a lot of die-hard preppers disagree with that, but right now we're dealing with the immediate problem of food poverty. So we need to buy and stock what we like and eat. We can think about other things for trading when we have the pantry stocked, the stockpile stocked, the food situation sorted. Until then, stock what you eat, stock what you like. Well, you know, I've lost it. I'm listening to the rain. Stock what you eat and eat what you stock. Buy what you eat what you buy. Think about cheaper brands. If there's a cheaper brand, try it. If you don't like it, you can go back to buying your regular brand. Just wait for it to come on sale or look for a move for it. There is a move for just about everything, and Moo Month's coming up. So we'll have another 31 to add to our list. Do you have something that will do the same job? If you do, cross one of them off your list. You don't need 2 things that do the same for the same result. If you're not sure of substitutes, go over to our website, cheapskatesclub.net. Do a search for the substitutes lists. There's a couple of them. One's general substitutes and one that's really handy for egg substitutes, because eggs, they're a bit pricey, not as pricey as in the US, and still a little on the scarce side. I'll put links for those in the description box below after the show. Look at your stock of basics. Are they mostly ingredients? If they are, well done. Or are they mostly prepared and convenience type foods? And there's nothing against those. I have nothing against those. It's what you stock and what you do is your business, not mine. But when you do stock packets and convenience type stuff, you're limited to what you can do with them. Ingredients give you options. So ingredients like flour, sugar, dried fruits, yeast, cocoa, coconut butter, eggs, milk, frozen or dried or canned veggies and fruits. They will give you lots and lots of options. Meat and poultry, frozen meat and poultry, or canned meat and poultry. They give you options. You've got a better range of recipes that you can make, different meals you can make. Now, I've been moving away from being freezer reliant for our food storage a long time, about 4 years. So most of our chicken is ugly chicken, and most of our mince is canned and ready to use. Sits on the shelf, doesn't take up space in the freezer, and if the power goes out, I don't have to worry. When I can them plain so that I can add the seasonings when I open them to use them in a recipe. It means I'm not stuck with using mince with Mexican seasonings in a Mexican dish. I can just open a jar of mince and tip it into some gravy. I can tip it into tomato sauce. I can warm it through and put it in a pie and add the seasonings as I need it. It's convenience without the restrictions. The other thing to think about, does what you buy have a reasonable shelf life? Will you be able to use it or preserve it before it needs to be composted? Look at the quantities you're buying. If you're throwing food out, are you buying too much? Are you not able to preserve it? Freeze it, dehydrate it, bottle it? If the things you're buying are on the forever food list, and I'll put a link to that video below too, then quantity isn't really an issue. It's a forever food. But if it has a limited shelf life, only get what you will use before it needs to be composted or before you can preserve it. Don't waste your money. We can't afford to waste money. The other thing, bulk means more, not cheaper. It's a marketing ploy that's changed the way we define bulk to mean cheaper. It doesn't. It means more. Always check your unit price too. Okay, now think about your food security before your pantry is empty, and then make a plan to fill your pantry and keep it full. I know rising prices and the cost of living are hurting, but we need to eat. Our children need to eat. So ensuring we can at least put 3 basic meals a day on the table is a priority for all of us. Right, I think I've preached long enough after all of this. I don't want to go too long over if I can help it. But let me go up here. Oh my gosh, I've got 100 people watching. That's really good. 100 people watching. I didn't know about it, Joy. I was in here working away, looking up notes and things. I had no idea. Number one son did come in and say, oh, we must be going to get a storm because it's pretty black outside. And I didn't even look. So here we go, guys. Did you all catch this from Kylie? Cheap groceries for Brisbane, loaves and fishes, Slacks Creek, $45, 3 trolleys, all basics. Yes. No pension or concession card required. Excellent. Thank you for sharing, Kylie. I didn't mean to give you a fright, Barb. It was a technical issue. I was the technical issue. I just kept clicking the wrong thing. I don't know why. I was talking away, having a lovely conversation with myself. I said hello to everybody. I said hello to everybody. Anyway. I don't mind using powdered milk for baking or making yogurt. I still prefer fresh milk, or I'll even go UHT in my tea or coffee. In my tea or coffee, and I can even bear it on cereal. But powdered milk, I'd have to be desperate. But desperate times, who knows what I would do if I was that desperate. Okay. Joy, will your school benefit from the new breakfast program? I saw the details for that and I thought, I wonder if Joy knows about it. I suppose you do. The new breakfast program sounded really good. Oh, Karen, my heart aches for them. I don't know how this is going to end. I can't see I can't see me. This is doom and gloom. I can't see how this is going to end. I keep thinking back to when we were first married and had our mortgage, and interest rates were so high, but our mortgages were so much lower. Our first house cost $75,000. We had a $62,000 mortgage. It still took a lot of our money, but by golly, it's nothing compared to the mortgages that people carry today. I can't see how it can be done. It's happening everywhere to everything. And I don't know. We could bag the supermarkets. They're in business. They're entitled to make a profit. But we run our family businesses, don't we? So we're entitled to run our family businesses and make a profit too, or at least break even. It is, our responsibility to make sure that our family finances balance, just as it is the CFO of Coles or Woolworths or whoever, is their responsibility to make sure their budget balances. So we can do it by shopping around, being smarter with our shopping, learning to cook. I had to learn to cook, guys. I wasn't a cook. I'm still not much of a cook, but I had to learn to cook. Um, right, hello, Colleen. Um, well done, Barb. No takeaway. Yes. Um, Barb's already started her inventory, the black hole vortex that is her pantry. Bless her. Okay. I've got mints on my list to do either this week or next week. It's got to be done before the end of the month too, Kerry. I'm just not sure where I'm going to get it from. Oh, it's still raining here. Julie's been making jam and bottling fruit. Yes. Oh. Can someone help? What's the best tasting powdered milk people recommend? I buy Aldi powdered milk. We don't drink it, but I use it to make white sauce or custard or in baking, pancakes, that sort of thing. Someone know? Can someone help with the best tasting powdered milk? You may have already done that. 40 cents is great for cream, Glennis. Um, milk. Sorry, I'm just reading your comments, guys. Sorry. Talk amongst yourselves. Our potatoes for Christmas dinner came from our garden. Again, I hadn't planted them. They were just volunteers that popped up in amongst other stuff. So I just waited and I pulled them on Christmas Eve and washed them and scrubbed them really well and just baked them, and they were delicious. And they didn't cost anything. Sandra was good, Tregan. The sun, I noticed, got to my black currants the last couple of days, so I'm going to have to put some shade over them. Okay. Okay. Water tonight, Barb. Too hot for tea. And I don't like iced tea because I don't like sweet tea. So, all right. Does it really mean reducing your stockpile, or does it just mean packing what you add to your stockpile as you get it. Just because you're moving doesn't mean that you have to reduce your stockpile. Even if you are moving into somewhere smaller, you may not necessarily need to reduce your stockpile. You just need to be creative about how you store it. I know it's a daunting task to pack it, especially if it's large, to pack it and label it and make sure it's all safe. But yeah, I wouldn't be getting rid of it. Hey guys, I used to do that for the kids and I'd give it to them for the breakfast the next morning, but I was never brave enough to try it. I know I've got this mental block because my mother used powdered milk, and in those days it was in tins, and it wasn't instant powdered milk like we have now that dissolves, and it was always quite clumpy, and the bottom would be sludgy and the top would be watery, and it was I didn't like it. Although it was all right on a spoon if you ate it out of the tin, it was all right. Um, um, there'll be a time gap between houses. That's okay. How long will what you have last that long? If so, then you're fine. If it's not, then you use it. Use what isn't going to last, or pass it to your mum or whatever. Um, okay. I'm sure that the charities could use plenty of volunteers. I think in my course of digging around the last couple of weeks, the number of families reliant, not just going for a helping hand, but relying on hampers from Food Bank and those similar charities has doubled in 12 months. Did I have them written somewhere? Something like 1 million a month. I think it's Food Bank. Food Bank hands out 1 million or helps 1 million families, people a month with food. That is a lot of people that are suffering food poverty. Sorry guys, I should stop reading and start talking, but yeah. Okay. Night, Glennis. Okay. What have I done? I've lost myself again. So, it wasn't quite so bad. It wasn't quite so long. Don't stop building your pantry. Don't stop keeping your pantry full. Don't stop. You can still pay your bills and stick to your grocery budget. Right now, I wouldn't be cutting back on my grocery budget. I would be looking to cut back on other things. I would be being very mindful of car trips. I would be very mindful of back to school costs because they can really blow out to nothing. I would be very mindful of electricity. I've got a lot of lights on in here, but there's not another light on in the house. I would be very, very mindful of those things before I would cut back on my grocery budget right now. Now is not the time to not be buying food. And if you can buy ahead and build your stockpile, do so. I watched Appalachia's Homestead today, and she was pretty much saying, well, for the last 2 years, they've lived off their stockpile because grocery prices were going up and up. Now they're having to restock, and it's kind of hard because grocery prices have gone up and up and up, but also a lot of what they want isn't available or is in short supply and they can't get it all. One thing, she made me think of Annabelle. One thing she had was animal crackers. The last time she bought them before Christmas was $1.99. I think it was $4.88 when she went to buy them earlier this week or late last week. That's how much they've gone up in just a few weeks. Now, made me think of Annabelle because she feeds them to her goats, to get her goats to do things. If she needs a goat to come to her or whatever, she teases them with animal crackers. Annabelle uses biscuits to get her animals to come to her when she wants them for something. So it made me think of Annabelle when she said that. But that is someone who is pretty cluey when it comes to this sort of stuff, but didn't restock as she used stuff. And now they need to, and it's costing more and harder to get what they need. So as you use something, replace it. When you open that box of tea bags, replace it. When you open a tube of toothpaste, replace it. At the very least, that's what you can do. Because nobody thought a pandemic would hit and we will be locked down in our houses for weeks on end. Nobody thought that would happen in Australia, but it did. And it happened just like that, on a whim. We weren't given weeks and weeks notice to prepare. It just happened. I'm sure the people of Ukraine didn't expect that, nearly 12 months on, they'd still be at war with Russia. But they are. So these things happen. The floods, who thought that it wasn't going to stop raining? I know in November it just rained and it rained and it rained, and it was like I was sort of thinking, I think I know a bit about how Noah felt when that rain started, because it just did not stop. Who would have thought that You know, a good third of our country would be underwater. But it was. So we need to be prepared. We need to be prepared. We don't need to panic, because panic's wasted energy. But we do need to prepare. We don't need to go crazy over it, but we do need to prepare. We need to be smart about it. And we can do that. And I know you all can do that, because you're all pretty cluey people. I read your comments and I know what you're doing. I read all the comments. I might not respond to all of them, but I do read all of them. And I know what you're doing. So you're all pretty cluey people. I just don't want you to go hungry. I don't want your children to go hungry. And I don't want you to ever be in the position where you go to the supermarket and you can't afford to buy food. Now, this is probably nothing new. I don't think I've said anything new. I say things like this all the time, but you know what? It is what it is. I don't know, you know, that Bible verse, Ecclesiastes, what has been will be again, and what will be done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. It's true. Ideas have been around forever. We just talk about them at different times in different ways, and when we're in a different mind frame, it sounds like a new idea. So, milk arrowroot, there you go. I love arrowroot biscuits. A little bit butter, a little bit of honey. Guys, I have to tell you, new recipe I invented last night. Golden syrup mustard chicken. I have to say, decided we would have honey mustard chicken for tea last night. So I opened a jar of ugly chicken, drained it, and tipped it in the pot. I got out the mustard and slapped it in, some garlic, slapped that in. Reached into the pantry, picked up the thing, opened it and went, oh, this must be out of the van, gave it a good squeeze. And Hannah was here and she went, oh, do you use golden syrup instead of honey and honey mustard chicken? Oh, no. It was delicious. Absolutely delicious. So much nicer. So much nicer. Hi, Maddie. So much nicer than the honey mustard chicken. So next time, try golden syrup mustard chicken. It was delicious. Quite by accident. Anyway. Okay, now I will let you go. I don't mean to be preachy, but honestly, this is something that I feel so very deeply, that we need to be aware of how close we are to not being able to feed our families. And no one's going to help us, because they'll be busy trying to help themselves. So we need to be able to help ourselves. Anyway, if you've stuck with me this long through false start after false start after false start, thank you so much. You have no idea how much I appreciate you taking the time to listen to me. Now, we are getting close to drawing that Food Lab dehydrator. I only need 49 more subscribers, and it will be on its way to someone who I know will put it to work building their pantry. All you need to do is subscribe to our channel. Nothing else. Just click that little subscribe button below me and you're in with a chance. Now, I read all your comments, like I said, so thank you for taking the time to do that. And I do my best to answer your questions too. If I miss yours, it's not intentional. Sometimes they get mixed up in the comments and I miss them. Lastly, if you know anyone who might like this video or might like to know about the Cheapskates Club, please use the share button to send them a link. I'll be back next week. But until then, have a great week and happy cheapskating.